Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be looking at the sets that were released in 2022 in Weiss Schwarz English, mainly sets that had booster boxes, and just looking at the prices and kind of doing like a market review and analysis, see where the prices are, see how well they're doing, how bad they're doing, and just, speculate, discuss, and just analyze what's going on, whether it's the IP, whether it's oversupply, under demand, like all of those different things, and just seeing where different sets are. So let's start it off with the first set. We're going to go in order of release because I think that holds some importance. But yeah, first main set we had was Rent a Girlfriend. Came out in February 2022. So the first Rent a Girlfriend set we had. And let's just look on TCG Player at prices. I know not always it's accurate here, but it's still a good source of information. You can still look at sold prices, prices that people have actually paid for the item. We do have to consider loose boxes can quite likely be dead boxes because of the pull rates and the mapping per case. So there's a few things we need to think about, but I think overall for this set, which is now over a year old, so we've got case prices at $1,200 US. Been tiny bit, very slightly going up, but I mean overall, let's look at the whole year. It's climbed very slowly. We've had some sales in December around 1,400 and 1,200, and there's 4 available. And booster boxes are at $72. $99. How have they been over the pretty, taking an average here, it's probably around the 72 mark since release, which seems like fairly healthy. It's a set that's a year old now. It seems to be doing perfectly fine as a set. Next we will go on to Mushoku Tensei that came out in March. Now this was a very popular anime. I did buy some of this to open. I bought a case of this to keep sealed that I still have sealed. I don't know if I will be keeping it sealed for years or I'll be keeping it sealed for years and then opening. Who knows? I just sometimes like collecting sealed product. And obviously with the mapping, collecting a sealed booster box that is dead isn't that fun. But yeah, this was kind of a big release. It's a very popular series. I really enjoyed this. I'm pretty sure it won Anime of the Year with the Crunchyroll Awards from last year. It definitely won an award. I can't remember which one. I think it was that one. But yeah, really great show. Like animation was really, really good quality here. And yeah, looking at the prices. So we've got cases at $1,800 US, which very, very high. I believe this is the most expensive case for a set that came out in 2022. Now, for those of you that know, the chase card in this set was the Roxy Trial Deck card. I pulled this card myself. I bought one display case of 6 decks, and it was in the first deck I opened. So happy with putting this. I got it graded when this came out. So at the moment, 1,600. When it came out, I think it very quickly became about $1,000 for the card. And then after a few months passed, it slowly declined as things do. Like the set isn't the newest set, some more sets come out, prices drop because everyone's looking at the newer set now. But over time, it seems that this has climbed. Now, I did send it off for grading. It came back a 9.5 with BGS, and I sold it probably at the worst time, at the worst possible time. I sold it a few months after the set came out and the card started to drop in price. Now, that's fine. I sold it. I wanted to get the money and then buy more cards with it, so it's absolutely fine. But yeah, it's doing really, really well. And if we go back quickly and just look at the sealed product, so obviously decks at $47. That is crazy. That is crazy. These are extremely likely to be dead and mapped, in my opinion. Even the display cases can be dead if someone bought a case and opened it and and hit the SP in the first one. They've then got loads of these display cases that they know just has triple rares in. I'm really surprised to see these numbers, to be fair. But it'll be the Roxy driving this. So box prices are over $100 and case prices. So all of this, very, very strong. And even though the chase card is from the trial deck, the SSPs, one per case that you got, they're really solid prices. I mean, if you opened a case though at this price, very unlikely you're going to get that value back. But yeah, I don't know how much a playset goes for. I pulled this card out of 2 booster boxes, so it was around like $70 then. That's still, it's like the weakest card, but still super happy to pull anything with a signature on. So yeah, I bought a few of these cards and sealed, and that's going strong. And with a season 2 coming out soon, this is normally where you see even more growth in the original set. So yeah, definitely look out for when season 2 comes out, and if they do a volume 2 in Weiss Schwarz, I will be very interested to look at these prices and see what happens around that time. So after that, we had HoloLive Production, the set based around the HoloLive VTubers. Came out in May, and let's take a look at prices. So sealed fairly strong, 1,200. And for those of you that don't know, they had many different trial decks that you could, had different cards in it, different pools. So this one here in particular is the most expensive. I assume there's a card in there that's more of a chase card, but I didn't buy this set. I didn't open this set. It wasn't a set I was particularly interested in, so I don't have much information there. I mean, we can quickly look at the cards, but so something very expensive SSPs. There's a trial deck card there, another trial deck card there, as you can tell by the the T E in the card number indicates it's from the trial deck. So yeah, it makes sense as to why some of them are more expensive than others. So that seems to be doing really, really well, to be honest. It's a good price, probably a little bit above retail, which is what you'd hope to see. So after that, we had Fate Grand Order in June. Again, another set that I didn't buy. I didn't buy that many sets in 2022, but this is something I love about Weiss Schwarz. There isn't this hype and FOMO as a collector to buy every single set that comes out. You can just pick the sets that you like. Like, I've seen one series of Fate and it was okay. Like, I wasn't that bothered about it. It was entertaining, but it's not for me. I'm not a huge fan of this series, so it doesn't make sense for me to spend money on it when I could keep that money and wait for a release that's coming in a few months' time that I know I like and just put it towards that. So again, what is interesting about this set is we did not have signatures. We had them in the Japanese cards. They did not have the Aniplex license to put the signatures in English. So they did the good old gold stamp with some writing, and then they added some serial cards, which are, I mean, just in case you don't know, unique serials. This 1 out of 10 is, there's only one copy in the world. It's just a way to add a little bit more desirability to the set, because they know without the signatures, it doesn't hold as much value for people. So let's look at what happened. And prices are very, very low. We've got $680 for a booster box case and $38 for a booster box. Now, this can be one of two things, and I think it's a mixture of both. You're not putting signatures in the cards, on the cards. People don't want it as much. Some people will just resort to buying Japanese. Like, if you're a collector, you just resort to the signed Japanese card and skip the English set. However, they do add serial cards in here, so some people will chase them, and potentially that causes a lot of supply, a lot of people ordering this chasing serials or keeping it sealed in case there's a serial or serials that haven't been pulled. And what can happen is there's too much supply. A lot of people open it for trying to find those serials, and then you have a lot of those stamped cards that, where's it gone, that don't have the serial number on. There's just a lot of these around, and not many people want them. So, that was Fate Grand Order, not looking good whatsoever, way under retail price. And then after that, July, not long after, we had Dan Machi. Again, not another set I picked up. It's a series I've wanted to watch, but I don't think Crunchyroll have season 1 on. So I've got no way at the moment of trying to get into it. I think they've got like season 2, but just not the first one. So that's really annoying. I do want to try and watch this. So hopefully I can get around to that at some point. But anyway, we're at 939 per booster box case, 51 per booster box. I feel like this is fairly normal. Maybe it's a little bit low, but this is a set that's under a year old. So what can you expect? I feel like it's reasonable, right? We've got signed cards. We've got some SPs here that look really nice. So I think it's doing okay. Like, very reasonable price. Not really high, not really low. Just a solid price. So after that, we had Tokyo Avengers, which is a very interesting one. It's very different to normal Weiss Schwarz sets. Mainly an all-male cast. You've got, you do have some female characters, but this isn't a typical Weiss Schwarz. Let's put all the female characters on the cards and have all the waifu cards. Like, there are 2 cards with, is it Emma? Oh, I can't remember. Are they here? Yeah, we've got. So yeah, we had Hina and where's Emma? Emma. So they were the SSPs that could be obtained from the trial deck only. And in the booster box, you just had the boys. Like, you just had, the gang. There was no that. No, there was one here. We had a TVR of Hina as well, but I mean, compared to other Weiss Schwarz sets, like, it's very different, and a lot of people kind of expected it to not do that well because of like the main center of attention being the guys, which is what the show, you've seen the show, it's kind of what it's all about. You understand why that's the case, and like this. I watched this. It took me a while to get into it. It's not groundbreaking, but it was just entertaining. And where have I put it? Here. So this is low-ish. I mean, boost trial decks are quite low at $9, but this is fairly low. And what I think happened here is not many people ordered it. I really struggled just to buy one card. In the UK, I couldn't really find anyone selling the card that I wanted. It took me like a week or 2 to even find someone in the US selling this one TVR that I wanted. And it was the Mikey and Draken TVR. And I think that just shows like how difficult it was to find these cards, how low the supply was, because people just weren't buying and opening this set. So the supply, in my opinion, on this set was very, very low. People just skipped over it for the all-male set that's just, it's about the boys, it's about the homies. Like, that's literally what the set was, and people weren't feeling it. So I think long-term, like, this will be a bit of an underdog. I think Tokyo Revengers has a really solid fan base. I feel like it is actually fairly popular. And I think going forward, this could easily be an underdog because of the low supply. And years to come, if Tokyo Revengers does well, keeps bringing out new seasons. I mean, I think season 2 just finished airing, or is airing at the moment. I will be watching that soon when it has ended, so I can just watch it all. But Yeah, I think potentially that could do well long term. And then after that, we have Quince 2. So it came out in August. I feel like around this time they were just pushing so many sets out back to back. So yeah, Quince 2, let's take a look. And yeah, it's okay. Slightly cheap, I guess. Again, this wasn't a set I got into. Um, I didn't buy this at all, but let's look at where prices have been going. So yeah, it did. It has kind of just dropped over time. But yeah, let's just look at the cards and see what was going on here. Yeah, I mean, very pricey SSP there. Um, yeah, perhaps these are slightly cheap. The case prices potentially could be fairly cheap. How many SSPs have we got? We've got 3. I assume this is one per case as a standard SSP pull rate. Oh, there's one here. It's just too cheap. Oh, and another one. Yeah. Okay. You could easily open and buy a case and open it and lose some value there, but unless you hit the Nino. But yeah, I mean, it's they have signatures, and I feel like that's reflected in the price compared to the other sets that just ended up with stamped cards. So yeah, I mean, uh, under a year old, is it? Yes, it's less than a year old, so I feel like again, just fairly standard. Like there's still some stock left. Um, but yeah, potentially, I mean, Quince is very popular, I think, in terms of Weiss Schwarz and a series. So maybe long term that could do well. It would only be a matter of time. Somehow I've triggered Siri. It could only be a matter of time until these are sold. There will be a few more cases out there, but you add on a few years to that, it's all gone really. And yeah, potentially because of the popular IP, could do well. Next we have Attack on Titan that came out in September. Very interesting one to look at. So what I feel happened when this was released is that a lot of people that weren't in Weiss Schwarz or weren't in buying and selling Weiss Schwarz, but they sold other TCGs, I feel like they heard about this and decided now is the time they want to be stocking and selling Weiss Schwarz. And that meant way too much got ordered. And that is reflected here. You can literally just see way too much supply still on the market. How long has it been? 8 months, 10 months? No, not 10, about 8, maybe 6 to 8 months later, still lots available at very cheap prices, under retail, under distribution prices. Like these are super cheap, right? You've got a case at $569. You've got booster boxes at $33. Now in the UK, if I could walk in, or just anywhere online within the UK, if I could buy Attack on Titan Final Season boxes for like £30 shipped, I would just be buying them to open up for fun. Like that is so cheap for a booster box that I would be picking them up. But unfortunately, I'm in the UK. If I wanted these boxes, I'd then have to pay a lot of shipping on top. That just then makes no sense. Like it just ends up being way more expensive. I feel like some people have been sort of auctioning these off in the UK, and they end up going for around £50 maybe, give or take. But yeah, I mean, if I could pick them up at £30, I would just buy one every now and then to open for the fun of it, because I did open some of this. I did buy some of these cards. I do really love Attack on Titan. But yeah, I think what happened is just way too much got ordered. People knew how expensive the old Attack on Titan sets were. People knew how popular the show Attack on Titan was, and it just led to way too much product being ordered, which is this is the thing with the supply and demand with Weiss Schwarz. It is very different to a lot of other things, especially when you pre-order sets and each set is a different IP. Like it's very unique, and it means there's this weird balance between you've got to pre-order way in advance based purely on the IP without knowing what the cards look like or what's even going to be in the set. You're just saying, this IP will be strong, I want to order it, I want to sell it. And it's difficult because if everyone does the same thing, then you end up with too much supply. If people don't order enough, and because it's print to pre-order, you end up with really high second-hand price boxes, and then maybe they do a reprint, but it takes months, and again you have to pre-order the reprints. But yeah, just far too much supply happened with this set. Let's just look at the cards though, because obviously the steel prices are very cheap, but we've got some SSPs here that are still very solid prices with, only 4 listings. And when you compare that to the price of the case, it looks really, really good. Like in terms of I could buy a case, pull one of these SPs, get a couple of TTRs or maybe the set card. You would have a load of bulk left over, and because of the amount of supply, it's quite likely you won't be able to sell play sets with the bulk. Or you could, it would just be really, really cheap. But, it potentially could be a very fun opening unless you hit like the Rhino SP or Armin SP, which don't hold much value. So, I mean, personally, I think the cards are doing all right. The cards, considering how cheap the sealed product is, are not too bad. But as a set, as a sealed product, far too much of it out there. But eventually it will disappear. So maybe this will be interesting to watch long term, and maybe even review every year and see what's going on with it. So next we have Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl. Came out in October from the film. For those that know, again, we did not have signatures and we got stamped cards, and we just had the title sort of stamped on it with the kanji up there, instead of the Japanese set which got the signatures. So did we get, I can't even remember we got serials as well, so this one's kind of seemed to be a bit hard to spot, but yeah, we had 1 out of 10 serials on these cards too. But yeah, let's look at prices, and again, reflected in the price, people don't like not having signatures clearly. And I don't know how much Bushiroad and Weiss Schwarz are aware of this, because it would be really nice if they actually did have some sort of information about the secondhand pricing, because this really reflects that people don't want stamped, non-signed cards. So hopefully, who knows, maybe they are aware that these sets just don't do that well. But maybe the serials, like I said earlier, is what's pushing up the supply of these sets, which then makes them cheap. So it's quite hard to tell. But I just know, like me personally, if these were signed, I would have bought and I would have opened some. Because they weren't, completely skipped this set as a whole. Didn't bother whatsoever. And I'm sure there's lots of others out there that did the same thing. So hopefully that only reiterates to them that we just aren't happy not getting signatures. And next up we have Saikano, which came out in October 28th. I did not buy this, and once again we don't have signatures. So what happened with why we couldn't get signatures? There was an issue with Aniplex licensing, and Weiss Schwarz did not have the license for them in English, which is why you can still get them in Japanese. But I'm pretty sure not long after Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl, they obtained the license again, because I think Sword Art Online was Aniplex and that came out with signatures. I think Seven Deadly Sins Revival was Aniplex as well. Not 100% sure, but yeah, I believe this situation here was really bad timing, and if they'd waited, they potentially could have got these cards out signed. But it is what it is. They didn't have the license and they released a product. But yeah, sorry, back to Saikano. Fairly solid price fairly solid prices, to be fair, but it's not that old of a set now. It's, what are we talking here? October, not too long ago. But yeah, we did lose the signature, so fairly surprising that these case prices are nearly 1,000, taking into account no signed cards, and how cheap the SPs are. Very strange. I can only assume that this was a low supply set. Not many people ordered it, but there's a fairly solid demand for it. I mean, to be fair, there's 5 listings at 900, but what are the actual sold prices? Yeah, they're nowhere near that. Okay, so it is very cheap, and I guess I assume it is to do with the signatures, as all the other sets that year were pretty much the same price when they didn't have signatures. It's just no one has any for sale except this one listing at $900. So yeah, don't forget, and I need to remember, don't always go off of this number here. Always, take into account market price. Click on it, see what has actually been selling. So yeah, I don't give a wrong figure to you guys. And then after that, we had Dragon Maid, which came out in November 2022. Now, for those of you that know, the chase card in this set was the trial deck card. I'm sure you are aware, or you have seen this card at some point, but that was a chase card. It came out, I'm sure it was around $1,000 at the start, and eventually more people got their decks, more people opened them, more people got this card, and it did come down quite a lot. Fairly similar to the Roxy in Mushoku Tensei, but this has come down a lot further. And again, did we not get any signatures? These look more like stamps to me. Oh no, they are signed. It's just kind of difficult to see. They're just, where's it gone? I keep getting lost in all these tabs I've made. So yeah, okay, they are, fair enough, they are signed. But yeah, that came from the trial deck. Obviously, this one here being the chase card from the booster box set. But in terms of prices of the booster box and sealed product, it's doing fairly well. It's fairly normal. This is what you'd hope to see, and this is commonly what you expect to see after a release. Like, it's not old. It came out in November. Just fairly solid, fairly normal, and yeah, seems to be doing okay. And then the last set of the year, we have 7 Deadly Sins: Revival of the Commandments. Now, another interesting one, because when the first 7 Deadly Sins set came out, that set was kind of, there was a lot of supply of it, and it was sat around for a long time. Prices were fairly cheap. I think a lot of people pre-ordered this expecting it to do really well, and it was, as a set, still nice. Like, I've watched the show, I like it. I did buy some of the cards, I did open some. But yeah, when this set came out, I think because of how the first set went, there was a lot of sort of like price memory, and perhaps people ordered the first set and struggled to sell it and things like that. So in terms of this set, there's probably not masses of supply out there, especially with what happened earlier in the year with things like Attack on Titan. I think people were quite wary of this set. Yeah. And we've got case prices, at 1,000, and loose boxes at about 50, which, yeah, you don't really know in terms of ordering loose boxes off TCG Player whether they're dead or not, but it's quite often that they're slightly cheaper. Mainly, I'd imagine, because of that reason. But I mean, in terms of the case, holding a very solid price. If we look at the cards, however, very interesting that we've got some really, really expensive SPs. Considering these aren't like SSPs, like one per case, they're some really solid pricings on Escanor. And yeah, I think the set is doing well. I think because it didn't get over ordered, it's done well. People that like the set and want to collect it, you know, they've ordered some product, they've opened it, and prices are just fairly stable. It's not been over ordered, it's not been, you know, really oversupplied in that sense. And yeah, I think it's doing very well compared to how the original set came out and was doing to start with. And yeah, I really like these cards. I pulled the Meliodas myself when I opened one box, so was really happy with that. Yeah, it's gone fairly well. We have to see where that goes, and I will be doing more videos like this in the future. There's a lot of sets in here that I will probably revisit at different times. Like when a new set comes out, we will look at the original set, see what that's doing, how a new set affects the price of an old set, and the differences between whether that set's had too much supply. Like Seven Deadly Sins, when this one came out, the original set started to climb a little bit in price, which makes sense. But yeah, it had a lot of supply, so yeah, it kind of takes a while for that to have an effect. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be doing lots of sort of market review videos like this going forward. So if you like that, please hit subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, hit like. I'm sure if you got this far, you definitely like Weiss Schwarz and you're definitely into collecting and looking at the prices like this. So hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.